So tell us a little bit about yourself first off. What's your religion? Let's start with that.
Okay. Well, my name is Alex, and I am what I consider myself a modern Satanist. I started practicing, as you may call it, or whatever, when I was 17. I got really into it. That was at a point in my life where, 17-year-olds, you're trying to figure yourself out. And as someone who's gay and Asian, I didn't really know where I fit in the gay culture or Asian culture, because I felt like I was so different. I was a long-haired kid who wore lots of black and listened to heavy metal. No one really knew me. Like, Hmong kids didn't know me. Kids at school didn't want to talk to me. I was bullied. And the parents are right, heavy metal does introduce you to the devil, and that's what got me into Satanism. And I think it really helped me a lot. It made me accept who I am. It made me take pride of myself. It made me respect myself. And it just kind of it changed who I am. I was so lost before I found Satanism. And once I found it, I felt like I was on what they say, the left-hand path. So I was on the right path, but it's on the left side.
So what are some of the foundations of Satanism? Every Christian, they have the do right by your fellow neighbor and go to church, pay your tithes and stuff like that. What are some of the things that Satanists do?
Yeah, some of the things, so there are the Satanic Commandments, and then one of them that really spoke to me when I discovered Satanism was, Satanism doesn't really discriminate who you love, as long as, it states you don't hurt children, and you don't hurt animals, and you don't hurt other people, and Satanism doesn't care who you love, and that was the first time I heard that. At the time, in the media, there was Westboro Baptist was all over the media, and there were protesters anal is sin and being gay is a sin and you'll go to hell. And I'm just wait, but I'm gay, but I don't think hell's a bad place, and I don't even think it exists. And with Satanism, there is no devil and there is no God. There is just you. You worship yourself. You are the God in your own world. And I am my God in my own world. I worship myself. I take care of myself. I help people when they need it, because I'm there for the people that I care about. And it's all about helping yourself, being a better person, being the best person you can be, and understanding the world, and kind of being on the higher level, being always a front, a step before everyone else, in a sense.
So why Satanism versus something like Buddhism, which sounds pretty similar?
So I think Satanism, like I said, I think it's become, this is so cliche, but it's the metal aspect of it. That's the kind of music that I grew up listening to. And growing up, I always felt like I didn't belong. I was always the weird kid. And music really introduced me to, Satanism, just being who you are. And I don't care who you are, as long as you're a good person and you're not out there doing harm to other people, or kind of making a fool of yourself. No, you have to be careful of who you are, and the people who's around you, you can't affect them in negative ways. You always have to be positive. You always have to be someone who other people look up to, and someone who, you look up to yourself too. You look up to yourself. You want to be the best you can be at all times.
So were you religious at all before you found Satanism?
Before, I was not. Growing up Hmong, spirituality has always been in my family. Growing up, my parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, relatives will always talk about spirits, shamans, and not disrespecting our ancestors who have, crossed the Mekong River during the Vietnam War to come to the United States. But then I never really believed in rituals or calling upon the spirits. but I was always very spiritual because I guess I do believe that there are spirits, but I'm a little skeptic of it too because I haven't seen it myself. So growing up, yeah, I guess I was very spiritual. And then in middle school, I had no friends, but I was invited to go to a youth group at a local church. And that was the scariest experience of my life. It was so scary. We got in and they started playing music and they were all worshiping and people were on their knees and crying, and I'm just sitting there like, whoa, I thought this was a night of pizza and video games and hang out with friends, but why are people on the floor crying and the lights are dark and people are on stage singing about God? I was creeped the fuck out. But I kept going just because it was a place where I got free pizza, and I think one of the pastors was really hot, so I was I want to go see him every Wednesday. And then I remember one night they had this event where you the youth group, you went to the community center and you would stay up all night doing activities. There's dodgeball and Guitar Hero at the time. And I wore an Iron Maiden shirt, and it was Eddie penetrating Bruce Dickinson with this huge pitchfork, and they're in hell, and it's Hallowed Be Thy Name, one of their songs. And my friend who invited me, he's he pulled me aside. He's like, Alex, you can't wear that shirt here. And I'm like, but it's fucking Iron Maiden. This is heavy metal. This is what I like. What do you want me to do? Be shirtless? So, but he straight up so serious. You cannot wear that shirt here. And I'm like, no one else is saying anything. None of the pastors are saying nothing to me. But he was so adamant. I didn't care. And that was the last time I went back, because I just felt who I thought was my friend couldn't even accept who I am or who I was at the time. That's not a safe place for me to be around. Even though, like I said, I did have fun. I mean, free pizza was good, and it really opened my eyes up to discovering the right religion, or the religion that I want to practice for myself.
So let's go back to your family for a bit. How did they feel about you being a Satanist?
They don't talk about it. And I've tried to bring it up in conversations before, because it is important to me, and it's not just a trend, I'm not one of those people who are, I'm just gonna wear pentagrams because it's fashionable at the moment. No, I actually don't like to wear pentagrams because I don't like to show it off, because it's not something that, I don't want to shove it down people's throats like all these Mormon people do. They'll come around and try to forcefully deep throat me with their holy Bibles and shit. But I would try to talk to my parents about it and my family, just so that they know I'm not trying to convert them or have them validate my religion. I just want them to know this is what I practice, but they think that is just a phase. I think it's a joke. And then, frankly, I don't care, because I don't really need anyone to validate, how I feel and what I practice. They're my family, so I would just like them to know. But yeah, they don't really talk about it. And whenever that subject comes across, it's just cold shoulder, and, it goes by really fast.
So have you found that there's any conflict with your religion and versus, say, if you're in you are in a relationship, mm-hmm. So is he also a Satanist? Or?
No, he's not. And it's never been a conflict. That was actually one of the first few things that we talked about, was religion and practices, and I just told him what I practice and what I am, as a Satanist, what I do, what are my beliefs as a Satanist, and he just accepted it. There was I think thankfully and luckily, he was really understanding. And it's not I go around burning churches or killing goats and bathing in virgin's blood. That's fantasy world, but this is real life, so I don't do that shit. So it's not that. It's just more of a personal thing, and it doesn't really affect my relationships. When it comes to relationships, though, it only affected one relationship who was a friend, and he was super Christian, anti-abortion, just brainwashed sheep in, the masses. And we got into arguments over religion. And I don't like arguing about religion, because whatever my friends believe in it's like, that's none of my business. And who am I to say, like, oh, you're wrong and I'm right? And, and vice versa. You can believe in what you want. This is just what I believe in. And he couldn't handle that, so I was like, no, like, we can't be friends anymore. And plus, you're out there holding signs, like, talking about if you abort your kids, you will die and go to hell. Like, no, like, come on. Like, you should know better than that. Like, doesn't God spread love? And here you are, like, judging these pregnant people who don't want their babies. Like, who cares? That's not my problem.
So, what are some of the misconceptions that you would say people have about Satanism?
Oh yeah, some of the misconceptions are that Satanists go out and burn churches and sacrifice infants and goats. I think that's like a different type of Satanism where it's super underground and culty and it doesn't really exist I want to say in the United States or in Minnesota, I don't know. So I think that's a misconception. Another misconception is that all Satanists like heavy metal and, like worship the devil. We don't worship the devil. We worship ourselves because we are our own gods. But the heavy metal part, I don't know. I mean, that's what introduced me to, so that might be a good assumption, a correct assumption. And yeah, and I think the other one too, which surprises people, is when I tell people that I'm a Satanist is, but you're Asian. Like, Asians can't be Satanists. They can only be, like, Hindu or whatever, Confucius. I'm just like, what? Like, no, I don't know. I grew up in the United States. I'm first generation. I was born here, and that's the environment that I was raised in, and I was born here. So it might be different for me than other people. I don't know.
But yeah, do you like attend any like church or anything like that?
No, I don't. And I feel like as a Satanist, I don't need to be around other Satanists. Because like I said before, I don't need to feel comfortable as a Satanist, like with my religion. I know there are like, there's like the Satanic chapter of Minneapolis that goes on around here. I'm just not interested. I mean, what are they gonna talk about themselves? Like, I could talk about myself to my friends, and I personally, I just feel like I don't need validation. I could validate myself on my beliefs and how I practice it. I don't need to follow a set of rules, or that it becomes too organized, and that's what Satanism is about, is to not be organized or to not follow anything. It's just to follow yourself and, like the commandments and how you kind of interpret that for yourself. So that's how I feel about like gatherings and meeting up with other Satanists.
You already said that you don't like go to any like churches or anything like that. What are some questions that you have for people who, I guess, would judge Satanists or like other Christians or just other religions in period who have these misconceptions we talked about? Like, what questions would you have for them?
I would kind of throw like, honestly, like I would just throw like sarcastic questions, because when they ask these questions or they make these assumptions about me or about Satanists in general, like, it doesn't really offend me because I know better. And I'll just ask them like, oh, okay, like, so are you a virgin? Like, are you married? Like, isn't that like a sin, like, to have intercourse before marriage? Like, are you that pure? Because I met people who claim they were like virgins, and later on I found out that they were born again virgins, and I'm like, no, I don't think life has a reset button. Because if it did, I think more people would click reset. I want to reset my life. Shit. So I just take a very sarcastic approach to it. And I'll just see what they want to say. One time I had a really good conversation with these like two very cute Mormon boys on their bikes, and we were talking, and I was just asking them like, how do you feel like going around and spreading your message and, you know, trying to, in a way, like, convert people, because it's less informative, because I think if people want to be informed about a certain subject, they would take action to go out to inform themselves and not be approached by a complete total stranger and be like, hey, God's cool, like, believe in it and join our club. Like, no, like, if I wanted to join your club, I would reach out to you, you know, like, unless it's a job, you know, that's a different thing, because that pays bills. But this is religion, this is like personal, this, you know, people's lives here. So I don't know, I just very sarcastic when it comes to that.
Okay, and you talked earlier about the commandments of the satanic religion. How many are there, and like, do you know them off the top of your head?
I don't know them off the top of my head. I know a few that stick out. The one that spoke up to me a lot when I was younger, when I was like 17, was, you know, you can love whoever you want. Doesn't matter gender, sexuality, you know, as long as you're not hurting people. And then don't harm children. I think that's a big one. And don't harm animals. And the other one that I also live by is an eye for an eye. If someone hurts you, you have the right to hurt them back. Whether the hurting may consist of whether it be physical, mentally, or you just like read the fuck out of them. Like, you know, if you're gonna attack me, don't expect me to just sit there and take it. You know, I'm gonna say something back, and that's something that spoke to me too, because growing up I was bullied a lot. I didn't really have a lot of friends. Kids at school would like call me chink and flat faced, and one of the funniest jokes that they told me was like, oh, Alex, like, your last name sounds like a bunch of pots and pans falling down a staircase, like Chang Chong. I was like, dude, that's fucking hilarious, but like, what are you trying to do, offend me? Like, I know it sounds like Shang, like, that sounds like something big, like, it doesn't offend me, and why are you paying so much attention to me? Like, I'm not doing anything. So yeah, I don't, yeah.
Do you have any like closing comments that you would have as far as everything goes?
I think my closing comment, or my personal belief, is I think religion is important. I'm not one of those people who go out and kind of talk shit about every religion out there. No, I respect other people's beliefs. I respect religion as a whole. The ideas of a religion. I think people need religion, or not people in general, but some people need religion. You know, and being in like the mental health field, I've come across lots of clients who, you know, who believe in God, and, you know, without God they would relapse, they would use drugs, they would, you know, commit crimes, and the reason, like, one of the reasons for, you know, staying sober and being clean and not doing all these horrible things to them and to our community and society is, you know, God. And, you know, I think that's powerful. If God can keep you from, you know, abusing yourself and abusing the people around you, I think that's an important thing, and that shouldn't be looked down upon or spoken badly against. Religion's important, and for the people who are atheists and agnostic and don't really need a religion to lead their lives, like, good for them. You know, you're on a higher plane than the rest of us, in a sense, but some people do need it. I have lots of friends who are, you know, Christians, Muslims, atheists, and I love that. I love learning about other people's religions. Because I feel like you can't be ignorant, like, you can't be, like, you just can't hate all Muslim people because of what you hear in the media. Like, that's bullshit, you know? Like, you have to go out and learn and experience that for yourself, and just not be, like I said, like a sheep, just like in the herd. You have to be the black sheep. So, yeah, all in all, I think religion's important, because it is important to me. Because before I found Satanism, I was really lost. I did not know myself. I didn't have self-confidence. My self-esteem was so low. I just sat there and took beatings from like bullies, from people in my life. I didn't really stood up for myself. I didn't have any self-respect. I didn't respect my opinions. I didn't think my opinions were valid or important. But after discovering Satanism and learning about it and practicing it for myself, now I know like my voice matters as well, and I as a person matter in this world, to my community, to our society. There is not a lot of you don't see a lot of first generation Hmong kids who look like me or who are queer and dark and like heavy metal, but still can like be fabulous. So I don't know. I think a society has to come to a point where we have to accept people for who they are, regardless of gender, sexuality, religion, mistakes that they've made. I think we all are valid, and we should respect that within each other. And I think Satanism to me holds that message. And without that, I would probably, if I didn't get Satanism and I just like went off the mainstream assumption of it, I'd probably be, burning churches and in jail. Because, I don't know, that's what happens when you burn down a church.
Okay, so time to like whore yourself out a bit. Do you have any like social media or anything that you want to share where people can find you, befriend you, or if they have any questions?
Oh yes, I'm not too big on Facebook, but I love Instagram. My Instagram name is Hyman Holocaust, and the O's in Holocaust are zeros. So just follow me. I just post selfies and like random used condoms I find around Minneapolis. So.
Well, all right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.